Ahoy everybody! Come, take a seat by the fire, grab a drink, get comfortable, because I have a story to tell today. This story begins on May 3rd, 2011 with the release of Call of the Dead. I was but a boy at the time, but I spent a lot of time on the Call of Duty wiki trying to learn everything about zombies. One day I was reading the character quotes from Call of the Dead, and there's one that's always stuck in my mind after I read it. "Someone might be cheating," said by Sarah Michelle Gellar for reaching round 50. Little baby me at the time must have thought, yeah, you'd have to cheat to get to round 50, that's impossible. And I continued on with my life, thinking that that quote would never be heard by anybody, especially me. But I'm an adult now, and I know better. So I decided that I will get to round 50 on Call of the Dead, and I will hear that quote for myself. I decided to play on my Xbox 360 because it was a little more convenient to record on rather than my Xbox One. Please don't ask about my setup. I put the disc in and went to launch Call of the Dead and realized it wasn't installed. But no biggie. Or so I thought. This is an old console, and it took a whole day to install this. So I patiently waited, and finally it was time to start. Step 1 is to restart until I'm Sarah Michelle Gellar, which took a lot longer than I expected. In the beginning of the game, my goal was just to turn on power, get Juggernog, and do as much damage to George as possible. I thought I had made a mistake with this death machine because of how fast George is, but this actually showed me that George isn't all that much of a threat on his own. I got the power on, got Juggernog, and I started spinning the box for better weapons. I knew I wanted PhD Flopper next, but I figured there was no reason to buy it until I got the Scavenger. But the ray gun was good enough this early in the game. And then I had a pretty close call trying to leave. I continued to build up points and made my way to the Lighthouse to get PhD and start the main quest. And to finish my perk loadout, I got Stamina Up because I knew I'd be running a lot of circles. I killed George for the first time, and he gave me Speed Cola as my 5th perk, which is exactly what I wanted. I also never realized how good the ray gun was for taking out George. Anyway, with the Wunderwaffe, I went to run trains on the beach. I remember this strategy being a lot safer, but coming back to it today, I really didn't like it that much. It felt unpredictable and chaotic, but my plan was only to stay here until I was completely set up because I had a better training spot in mind. I kept hitting the box until round 15 when I finally got the Scavenger, and the real strategy would begin. I went to the second level of the Lighthouse, where a lot of other high round players would go. There were only 3 points of entry for the zombies, 2 barricades and the stairs, and the Scavenger's explosions had enough range to cover most of the room, and I'm pretty sure it could kill zombies through the floor too. Now the plan was simply to run in circles until a whole horde gathered up, and then kill them all with the Scavenger. The next time I killed George, I got Mule Kick, so I went back to the box for a good third gun. I ended up getting the crossbow, and after some thought, I chose to swap out my ray gun for it. It would make for a good safety weapon, and I knew if I went down it would be very helpful, so I wanted to make sure I didn't lose it with Mule Kick. Also at this point, my Scavenger scope broke. I think this Black Ops disc is scratched, so you're probably going to see a lot of texture issues. On round 25, I was running low on Scavenger ammo, so I upgraded it to the Hyena. I also got Matryoshka dolls. And remember how the Scavenger scope was broken? Well, so is the Hyena's. Now when I look through the scope, I can see 10 seconds into the future, and if I didn't like the fate I saw, I could erase that time and leap past it. I'm just kidding, it's actually last gen Richthofen. I'm just kidding again, it's actually just a white screen. So I guess I won't be using my scopes at all. On round 30, I found out that Matryoshkas made my frame rate drop pretty bad, so I chose not to use them out of fear of it crashing my game. This is also the round where I learned to avoid death machines this late in the game. But overall, this first attempt was going very well. I'd run in the Lighthouse with my regular weapons, and then I'd go back outside to the beach with my Wunderwaffe, since the shots were missing quite a bit, and I didn't want to get surrounded inside because of it. But on round 31, I would take my first down. Thanks to the crossbow, I was able to recover quite easily. I immediately got my 3 main perks back, and Stamina Up at the end of the round, and from there, the game continued. That freezing was kinda spooky. I hope that doesn't come up again. Round 34 is when I realized the Scavenger would take 2 shots to kill, and when I was low on ammo a few rounds later, I decided to trade it out for a new one. I guess this makes me an official high rounder now that I'm doing trade-outs. But as I was doing the trade-out, I finally got the VR-11, and it was time for a side quest, to see how it affects George. A quick Google search would have answered this, but it was more fun to see for myself. First, I tested to see how it works when he's morbid, and it actually calms him down. For a few seconds anyway. Then I wanted to test the upgraded version on him. I knew it would make him go away, but I wanted to see if I would still get the Wunderwaffe. But first, I had to hit the box many many more times to get the scavenger back. I was having very bad box luck. But once I did finally get it, I did my second test on George. It does make him leave, but he doesn't drop anything, unfortunately. But at least now I could do the rest of the main quest. I did all but the last step, so that all I had to do was knife the fuse box and I would get a free Wonder Waff. Also, I thought George would stay away for a whole round, but when you shoot him with the VR11, I guess it only makes him go away for a short time. I was so shocked to see him back so soon that I ended up taking it down. And immediately the game would tease me with a double max ammo. I recovered, but this time I chose Mule Kick over Stamina Up. I traded out the VR11 for the crossbow, and I took the ray gun as a third weapon. And from there I felt pretty set up. It was round 40 and I only had 10 more to go. Additionally, in order to save ammo from now on, I would start using Flopper to take out the last zombies of the round. But unfortunately, I would make a mistake on round 42. I got caught on a crawler and went down. When I tried to get out of the lighthouse, I got stuck on the stairs by the distracted zombies and George would finish me off, ending my first attempt at round 42. So what do you do after you fail on round 42? You immediately start again. In this game, I went to the beach and used PhD a lot more to save ammo in the early rounds. I also went for the Mustang and Sally as a safety weapon, since it seemed to be so popular with the high rounders on this map. I tried to use it along with the scavenger on the higher rounds in order to save ammo, but if there were too many explosions at a time, my console would lag. It was going really well, but on round 41 I wasn't paying enough attention and went down. And this time, because I didn't have the crossbow, I had to open this door to escape, which basically ruined the lighthouse strategy. I tried the beach, but it didn't work, and then I tried the bottom of the lighthouse, but this just wasn't it. This attempt would end on round 44. For this next game, I basically used the same strategy as last time, but I stayed on the beach longer, and I remembered to get claymores. I also cleared the debris on the stairs. I thought that might influence the spawns in a beneficial way. I also wanted to keep the doors on the bottom closed so that George would take longer to get back, but I did have to open one of them when the box was back there and I still didn't have the scavenger. But it's okay, because now I had a place to flop at the end of the rounds. By this point I had realized just how safe the strategy was. Without George, you hardly even had to run, and when he was around, he did make things crazier, but it was still very manageable. It would take until round 28 to get the scavenger, which was ridiculously long, but everything else was going well. However, I then found out that this was not a good place to do the flop, and unfortunately it was all downhill from there. I opened that door again to escape the lighthouse, so I had to resort to the beach once more. I decided to try turning off aim assist this time. I thought it might make it easier to run around if my crosshairs weren't getting stuck on the zombies. It was still a little sticky, but it felt better, so I would keep doing this whenever I'd start using a training strategy. It seemed to be going well, even with this really close call, but it simply was not my round 50 run. After these failures, I wanted to refine my strategy. I turned to the Zombie World Records website, where I could view more round 50 speedruns, and I picked up on this strategy that I hadn't tried yet. I'll call it the, hold on a second. The navigation strategy. It's a risky spot, but the spawns are really fast here, so I thought it was a good way to speed through the early rounds once I got the Mustang and Oh. That's okay, I'll just try again. Oh. Okay, so I realized I was being way too conservative with my ammo. You really have to let loose in order to avoid being surrounded. I decided to stay here until I got my first Wonder Waff, and then I would fling over to the lighthouse to run trains there like normal. I also picked up on some other good tips when watching those speedrun videos. First, if you shoot the Wonder Waff at zombies' feet, you don't have to worry about missing shots. And whenever things look too dangerous in the lighthouse, all you have to do is simply turn around and you'll avoid the danger. However, I immediately forgot to do this and the game would end because of it. The strategy for this attempt was the same as last time, but as you saw I took it down to the lighthouse and had to open the door to escape. After getting my perks and weapons back, I tried to continue with the beach strategy, but that quickly failed too. Miraculously, I was able to get out before taking another down. With no other options, I returned to the bottom floor of the lighthouse. I figured it would be similar enough to the usual lighthouse strategy, and that I might be able to make it work. The only real issue was that the back door was open, creating an extra opening for zombies to cut me off. But I played it very safe, and I was able to get to and beat round 44, my previous highest round. At this point it was taking 4 shots from the hyena to kill a horde, but that also meant that George was being killed much more quickly, so it kinda worked out. Ammo was also an issue, because zombies killed by the scavenger and the hyena would not drop anything. So whenever I was running low, I would use just 3 shots of the hyena to damage the zombies and then finish them off with the ray gun. It was also possible to get a max ammo from an electrified zombie, despite the weapon you killed them with. However, this could only be done once per drop cycle, and I knew I would never be able to keep track of the drop cycle, so I didn't rely on this all that much. Finally, I had made it to round 49, the last round I would need to complete, and I was nervous. I paused the game to make sure I was prepared. There are 240 zombies on round 49, and I had 13 Wonderwaff shots left, which could take out 130 zombies. This would leave 110, which is about 4.5 hordes, and I had plenty of ammo in the hyena. And George wouldn't even be here this round, making things even easier. I would go on to play it very safe, doing everything I could to avoid getting caught by the zombies, especially around that open door. I went through the Wonderwaff ammo, but when I went to use the hyena, I realized it was now going to take 5 shots to kill a horde. But thankfully, I still had enough ammo to get through the round. The first horde was taken care of, then the second, then the third, and for the fourth, I thought I had messed up. But when I started to clean up the crawlers, I got all these drops at once, including a nuke and an insta-kill. I took out as many as I could with the insta-kill, and the nuke finished the round. After 3 hours of playing, and however many more from the other attempts, I would finally get to hear that quote that I never imagined I would get to hear.
Someone might be cheating.
And with that, this personal challenge of mine was complete. Out of curiosity, I dug up my old phone where I kept track of my high rounds in this game, and it turns out my best round on this map was only round 30. In fact, I had never even made it to round 50 in this game before, only the 30s and 40s, which is kind of funny considering how much I love this game. Oh yeah, and the game freezing earlier? Yeah, that never became an issue. I just wanted you all to feel the same anxiety that I did. So, now that we're at the end of the video and I've gotten round 50 on this map, I guess I'll give some thoughts on it. I'm not big on doing map reviews, since everyone does those, but I will talk about my favorite thing about this map, which is just how unsettling it is. See, Call of the Dead is a pretty lighthearted experience on the surface, but there are quite a few things on this map with pretty dark implications. For starters, the submarine from the main quest. I've always found this thing to be so scary. It emerges from the water and it shines a light into the lighthouse and you have to kill a man in it. I've always wanted to know more about this submarine, more specifically, what's inside. Surely something's in there controlling it, and it must be something intelligent because it reacts to the foghorn. I assume that the submarine has been there for years along with the ship, so there's no way it's human. Is it a zombie? A ghost? Some other monster? And what's their motive? Why do they want to sacrifice? Why do they even help us? And where do they go after? So many questions. And how about George? What's the deal with him? That zombie from the intro specifically chose him, but why? And where did it take him? And what was done to him? He's not just another zombie, so he must have gone through something special, something terrible. He's definitely a monster now, but his humanity is still in there. Whenever you take him out, you can hear the fear, confusion, and remorse as he descends into the water.
Why can I taste blood?
Okay, George.
It's basically been confirmed that the human soul remains in the zombie body whenever someone turns, but George seems to be more tortured than the average soul, which is actually quite tragic. And finally, the VR-11, the weapon that turns zombies back into people. Seems like a fun gimmick at first, but this weapon is a lot darker than it seems. First of all, there is absolutely no lore for this weapon. We don't know where it came from, who made it, when it was made, or why it's even here. We can theorize that it's connected to the Vril, the Keepers, or maybe even Jesus, but ultimately its origin is a mystery. The weapon's ability is also quite unnerving. Sure, it's great to cure someone of being a zombie, but why do they just scream and kill themselves as soon as possible? I mentioned earlier that the human soul still exists in the zombie's body, but what happens to these souls over time? Kevin's music suggests that the soul can still see and feel everything, but has no control of the body, and that over time their minds just break. I can only assume that the bodies are restored by the VR-11, but the mind is not, which is why these people go insane. Honestly, this seems way more cruel than just shooting them. I guess this can all be described as psychological horror. We aren't given any answers to our questions, but we're led to believe that something terrible and awful has happened. If there's one thing I wish this map did better, it's that I wish the characters commented more on these things. They're experiencing some truly horrific things, but they don't seem to have much to say about it. Anyway, that's just my favorite thing about this map. Thank you everyone for watching and listening to my story, and also thank you everyone for subscribing. I just recently hit 1,000 subscribers, which was really fast actually, but I'm very grateful for it. Okay, here I go. Bye guys.